Our topic today is skills for building resiliency. Stress is ubiquitous outside and inside the workplace, and especially since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, nearly half of employees and two-thirds of physicians who have been surveyed report burnout. But while the subjective sensation of stress is ubiquitous and seemingly an inescapable element of the human condition, as Hans Sale once said, who's a Hungarian-Canadian endocrinologist who actually described the stress response, he said, it's not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it. So the good news is that psychological resilience can be learned, and research has demonstrated that people who report higher levels of resilience are physically healthier, they're more productive, they're happier, and they have closer relationships. So we're therefore very fortunate to have our current speaker today, Dr. Amit Sood, who's not only on our Academy of Science and Medicine, and we're very proud and honored to have him there, but he's also teaching us and our members how to be more resilient and how to optimize our emotional wellness. Dr. Sood is one of the world's leading experts on resilience and well-being. As a professor of medicine at Mayo Clinic, he was the director of the Mayo Mind Body Initiative. He was the Carla and Russ Paonessa Enterprise Chair for Student Life and Wellness at Mayo Clinic. And there he led several NIH and Foundation research studies, published extensively, and based on the findings from his research, he created the Resilient Option Program and has really built and refined and customized a scalable resiliency and well-being solution that emphasizes engagement, equity, and effectiveness. He's now the executive director of the Global Center for Resiliency and Well-Being, and his solutions leverage what he's referred to as the SMART engine, which is developed after 2 decades of testing in more than 30 clinical trials and is now serving over 1 million people. It's just certainly an honor and a pleasure to have you here, Dr. Sood, and we're looking forward to your presentation today. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. It's truly a privilege to be here, David and colleagues, and talking to you. As you can see, I have a little bit of a slumdog millionaire accent that I not try to hide. I get critiqued and laughed at by my daughters a lot about it. So if something doesn't make sense, feel free to stop me. And I'd love for this to be as interactive as this format allows. I was talking to a colleague of mine recently, and I asked him, when was the last time did you feel completely relaxed when you could shut off the phone and pager? So he thought long and hard. He said, that was like 3 years ago. I was under sedation with propofol, getting my colonoscopy. That was the last time my pager went off. Well, my pager was turned off. So I realized that if getting a medical procedure under sedation is what takes us to relax our brain, then we need to find a better way. So what I'll try to do is pursue that better way with you, explore it, and in the process answer 5 questions. The first question is, what is resilience and why should I care about it? It's pretty straightforward. And there's a reason I have this picture. She absolutely reminds me of my mother, who is 88. And is a yoga grandmaster. She has hundreds of students teaching and a BMI of 19, and she walks proud and has a voice that silences everybody, not just because of wisdom, but because of the volume. She used to be a teacher. So anyways, so resilience has many definitions. There's as many definitions of resilience as there are people defining it. It's your ability to withstand adversity, bounce back, and grow because of adversity. Most definitions of resilience have 2 components, to which I will add a third. So the 2 components are, there's some sort of adversity, some sort of tension would have happened, and then there is a surprising positive response to that tension or that adversity. And the third thing I would add is it happens through intentional effort. That's the third part, because sometimes you can grow automatically, but resilience is very much intentional. And that's what we are focusing on. How can we cultivate that intentionality? My personal definition of resilience is doing well when you shouldn't be doing well. That's what I share with my patients, and they absolutely get it. But I find definitions boring. To me, resilience is a story because it's complex. So resilience is the story of my mentor and friend, Brian. We sadly lost him a few years ago. Brian was supporting a very important education initiative, and it was a 3-year plan. In the middle of it, actually 2 or 3 months into it, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So we thought he'll shut everything down. But he came to the team and said, we had 3 years to do this. Now we just have 2 or 3 months. So we're going to finish it in before I leave the planet. And he made sure he inaugurated it before he got buried. So I think about him every single day. He is one of my sage. I think about sages, good people in my life, because they occupy a very special real estate in my brain. And that is actually one way I try to keep myself resilient and positive, which you will come to, is to think about inspiring people in your life. So your day can be average, your day can be engaged, your day can be in flow, or your day can be inspired. So when I ask you this question, who is inspiring you today? Or what is inspiring you today? And if it takes you more than 20 seconds to answer, then you could improve your day by actually having someone who inspire you every single day. My 4-year-old inspires me. Her name is Sia. She's now 12. And this is resilience as a trait. So Sia was when she made this beautiful purple starfish. She called her Sally. Purple was her favorite color, and we've gone through many favorite colors since then. So she was very excited about sharing, this Sally with my family. And as we were driving home from the daycare, Sally broke, and I thought Sia's going to start crying, seeing the broken starfish. This was like her whole day's production. But instead of crying, she looked at the starfish and said, "Daddy, this was a starfish, and now it has become a sailboat." So, so I thought that is a very resilient response. We didn't teach her that. So she accepted the broken starfish, and she found meaning in the broken parts. So what are the ingredients to that resilience? And so there are 2 broad groups. There is the inside out resilience, and then there is the outside in resilience. Inside out is physical, cognitive, emotional, spiritual, and outside in our social, financial, occupational. And we'll just focus on cognitive, emotional, and spiritual piece because physical is familiar to us, and outside in is beyond the scope of what I'm talking about. So cognitive resilience is what Captain Sullenberger was able to do when he landed the plane in the flight 1549 in the Hudson River. And so that is cognitive resilience. In my daily life, it is consistently remembering where I parked my car. Because I don't know, David, about you. I've made more friends at Mayo wandering the parking lot, looking for where I park my car. And not as much as connecting with them in hallways. Do you remember every time where you parked your car?
For me, well, I don't park a car anymore, but when I did, the answer would be no. I would say probably maybe at least once a month I would come out and forget where I parked my car.
Oh, that's interesting you said that, because New York Post published a couple of years ago that about 30% of people forget where they parked their car once a month. Or where you kept your car keys, and I will forget where my car keys are. And I've often wondered if I have early onset dementia, but I'm looking for it, hassled, and my wife comes and picks it and gives it to me. They're right in front of my eyes. I can't see them because my attention is short. She calls it male pattern blindness. I don't know if you struggle with that, or somebody who does, but I do suffer with that. So that is cognitive resilience. Emotional resilience is your ability to experience all the different emotions, both positive and negative. It is authentic positivity and adaptive and contained negativity despite adversity. So what is authentic positivity? When you're seeking positivity for the sake of it, then it becomes inauthentic. Actually, people who overseek happiness become more miserable. Uh, Positivity that is a byproduct of living a good life is authentic positivity. And we want, fear and disgust are protective of us, but when we know that excessive fear over a long period of time can have adverse biological consequences. So we have balanced fear. So that is emotional resilience. And then there is spiritual resilience, like Helen Keller, um, like Mary Curie or Mahatma Gandhi. They had more difficult life than us, but they had an altruistic perspective, a higher meaning, and preserved it in the middle of adversity. So that is the wart of resilience. Why we should be resilient? Uh, Most of us are struggling. That's the reality. 8 to 9 out of 10 of us, out of 80 to 90% have excessive stress. You may not have heard of lions having panic attacks or sharks having imposter syndrome. They are at the tip of their evolutionary pyramid, but we experience worries and stress and fear every single day. And actually, for example, mental disorder, it used to be 20% of the population, and that number has now gone up to 40%. So 40%, that's a very large number. And this is ubiquitous. This is across very many different industries. So that is the reason it is good to talk about it. And as a response to that, we have really created a number of organizational approaches in healthcare, in particular, workload optimization, user-friendly EMR, autonomy, good communication, values integration, enlightened leadership, all of that. But there's 3 reasons why they alone will not be sufficient. And those 3 reasons are because of the way industrialization has progressed from phase 1 to phase 4, which has basically decreased the load on our physical body, on our lower backs, and increased the load on our brain, on our mind. So the first one is cognitive load. If you look at how fast the world is changing, it is changing faster than my brain's ability to adapt. In 1980s, an average person got 3 to 5 communications every day. How many emails do you get, David? Emails plus texts plus, hey, Dr. David, can I do something? Dr. Dode, can I do something? What should I do about this patient? How many total communications do you get in a day?
300.
Okay, so is your brain about 100-fold smarter than your dad, perhaps, who worked in 1980s?
Definitely not.
You as a humble person, you will never say that I know. So we all have excessive cognitive load, and this is just because we are at that phase of industrialization where our brains are overloaded. This is not going away anytime soon. The second challenge is the manufactured emotions we have to create every single day. You feel miserable, but you have to be positive. And that creates what Arlie Hochschild called emotional labor and emotional work. Let's say you just got an R01 grant and a major NIH grant, and you're going to see a patient who has recurrence of cancer. You can't just go and tell them, oh, I'm so excited, I got my R01, because they are in a very different place. So you have to contain your excitement. So at the end of the day, this produces emotional labor. And 3 out of 4 workers right now are in professional services industry, where we are selling smile, we are selling compassion. So airlines are selling smile. Medicine is using knowledge and technology to deliver compassion. That is my definition of medicine anyways. So sustaining that compassion eventually gets on us. And there is something to say about authenticity, and particularly when you have to be inauthentic at work and also at home, then it gets on you after a period of time. And the third, since the beginning of industrialization in 1760s, there has been value discrepancy between individual and organization. I keep hearing about this from every single industry, and I just smile and think this has been there for the last 300 years. It's not going away anytime soon. And there was a very recent study that came out that perceived value discrepancy leads to decrease in compassionability, decrease in job satisfaction, increased burnout, increased absenteeism, increased chances of turnover. So these three, cognitive, emotional, and spiritual loads, or moral load, which leads to moral distress, this value discrepancy, they are not going away anytime soon. So we have to help the organization, and in addition, we have to help the individual. Waiting for the organization to fix itself is going to be a very long wait. And that is why I have continued to focus on personal resilience. And they include lifestyle and life enhancement, attention practices, resilient mindset, focus on connection and relationships, faith, and professional assistance. So is there any data that supports the value of personal approaches towards resilience? Actually, there's lots of it. This is a study that we conducted with Cindy Kermott and others, where we looked at corporate executives, about 2,000 of them, and we categorized them into three groups with a Connor Davidson resilience scale, less than 30, 31 to 35, or more than 35. This is high resilience. And we found that, their stress level, their depression, their self-reported anxiety, depression was 1/4 the risk compared to those with low resilience, and pretty much every other outcome, every single outcome that we have noticed. And this is not just our data. I have literally reviewed hundreds of studies, and these are some of the outcomes. Now, over the next 30 minutes, I'll read all these outcomes. Actually, I don't think I need to. Just physical, psychological health, work, performance, relationships. I have yet to see, I'm almost thinking that there's some publication bias here, because every single outcome is better with higher resilience. And so this is correlative data. The question is there prospective data that resilience helps? So this is our first study, where we had somewhat cynical colleagues who participated in our first clinical trial. It was a randomized study, and we found that just a single session intervention increase their resilience, decrease stress and anxiety, and enhance quality of life, all four statistically significant. And we were like, okay, this is one study, and I didn't believe that this is going to make an impact. Now we have 35 clinical trials we have completed, and pretty much consistent outcome data in more than 90% of the studies. And below you have the PubMed ID numbers. And several other groups have tested their own different approaches towards resilience. So clearly, what I've talked about so far is that resilience matters, and resilience can be enhanced. That's the bottom line. Next, what we will do is we'll focus on how to resilience, and I'll share with you some specific ways you can enhance your resilience. Let me pause and see if my accent worsened at any place, or if something I said that didn't make sense, if anyone has any question.
Perfectly clear, Amit.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right, so let's continue. And so the second question that I've been very commonly asked is, as soon as I wake up, a million thoughts run through my head. How do I start my morning on a more calming note? So I'll share with you one specific practice. So when you're waking up in the morning, you're not waking up saying, why am I appreciated so much? That really sucks. We're waking up with all the open files in our head. So my colleagues wanted to see at Mayo Neurosciences how the brain looks when you're resting. And this is from David Jones, a professor of neurosciences there. And this is the resting scan of the brain. He's looking at dynamic connectivity. And his interpretation is that brain actually becomes more active at rest. So for the purpose of this resilience program that we have developed, we conceptualize brain seesawing between two modes. The first one is the focused mode, when something very novel is happening. So if you look out the window and you see a baby giraffe walking in the parking lot, that will get your brain in the focus mode. The best example of focus mode is when my daughters did at a party. They drank a lot of fruit juice, and they do what I like to call pee-pee dance. So their backs are arched, their legs are tight, and I like honey, you have to go. And they'll say, no, daddy, I don't have to go. But they actually have to go because they are so absorbed in what is happening in front of them, they forget that their physical body. So the last time you had PP dance while working on your desk or working on your project, you were really focused. Brain loves to be in the focused mode. But there is a second mode called the default mode. It is reading a book, you read half a page, you say, what was I reading? And you go back again. Or sometimes you arrive at home and you do not recall anything you saw on the road. And this is, I saw a kid close to my daughter's middle school walking on the railroad track with her head buried in the iPad. This is not her picture, but that is the outcome of our constant state of distraction. So why does it become so easy for us to be in this default mode? Why are we spending 50 to 80% of the time every day in default mode? And leading to the second problem, which I'll come to in a second. Because go back to age 16, you're learning to drive. You wouldn't have appreciated a phone call at that time because you needed all your attention capacity was used. Now you can drive and sip coffee, listen to music, speed, and look out for police car all at the same time. So it becomes a default activity. And the same thing happens when if you have been blamed at any point that you are not listening, dad, you're not listening, or mom, you're not listening to what I'm saying. Your brain it's not your fault. Your brain you were focusing, but you were focusing elsewhere. Your brain was in the default mode. So our brain seesaws between these two modes, but we spend a whole lot of time unable to suppress our default mode activity, which predisposes to the second challenge of the brain, which is fatigue, mental fatigue. Interestingly, several dozen studies have shown that when you're working, in about 60 to 90 minutes, your brain starts getting tired, which leads to drop in accuracy, increase in reaction time. But the brain gives very indirect signal. When you're tired, you're not as engaged, you're not as productive, you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're a little irritable, you have a desire for coffee, you want to eat even though you're not hungry. And you might, okay, why am I in front of the refrigerator? I just had lunch. Because you have mental fatigue. So the question then is, what is our brain hungry for? Because if you started working at 8 a.m. in the morning, by 10 a.m., your brain is tired by definition, but you don't know it because it's subtle. By the time you know 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, you have nothing left to give to your family or to anybody. So what is our brain hungry for? Our brain is hungry for rest. For sure, rest is when you can let go of planning and problem solving, not rest when you close your eyes and you're thinking, what else can I argue about, or how to plan my insurance premium? Whenever you're planning and problem solving or ruminating or worrying, which is what our mind does, that is not resting. The second brain hunger I came to know a few years ago. My little one at that time was 3. She was struggling with constipation for 5 days in a row. And I was seeing this patient at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was very tired. My wife sent me a text, and it said she did it. And exclamation. I don't know if there were any poop emojis at that time. So I was very happy. I had so much more energy in that afternoon. And I looked up the literature. What I experienced was uplifting emotions. And multiple studies show you're experiencing fatigue, your energy level is going down, you get uplifting emotions, immediately your energy goes up. Third brain hunger is motivation. Why am I doing what I am doing? It could be intrinsic or extrinsic, ideally both, at least, but particularly intrinsic. And that is one challenge, that in the world today, intrinsic motivation is being replaced by extrinsic motivation. With very high expectations and low patience, which is why sometimes our young people are struggling, because extrinsic motivation cannot completely satisfy a human for the long term. That is seeking happiness for the sake of happiness, rather living a good life and having happiness as an emergent property. So the acronym here you see is RAM. So we were just denouncing happiness, but our brain is hungry for rum multiple times during the day. Now, by the way, just to clarify, this is the metaphoric rum, not the actual rum. If you're drunk at work, Please do not blame me or Dr. Doric. So this is my brain in 2012. This is my energy. It's just going down consistently all day long. And by 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, I'm dog tired. I have no energy left to give to anybody. And that's when your kids run to you. So now what I do is I do like this. I preemptively, proactively give myself a little bit of rum. So what does that rum look like? That's what we will explore next. So basically, so far what we've talked about is resilience makes sense. And what we've learned is that our brain, we spend a lot of time with wandering attention, whether or not we know it, and we experience fatigue. We're working with a tired brain most of the day. Think about last time when you said something that didn't make sense. You're like, how could I be saying that? That's not me. It was because your brain was tired. You were not thinking straight. If you have kids who are behaving irrational, 8 out of 10 times they've not had a good night's sleep for 3 days in a row. And they sleep for 12 hours and suddenly a beautiful different person, shows up from inside that devil. So how does that rum look like? And let's go back to the question that gentleman was asking. I want to start my morning on a calming note. So this practice achieves many purposes, and one of the purposes to wake up with a more affiliative feeling for the good people in your life. So the practice is called morning gratitude that I think some of you may be familiar with, but we'll do it again together. And the idea is if this is how you're waking up, you let these go and bring a smile to your face with relaxed eyes. And I'll show this to you one more time because it took me 2 hours to make that animation work. And then think about a few people in your life who matter a lot to you and send them your silent gratitude. So let's do this practice. I'm assuming you're at some place safe where you can close your eyes for like 2.5 minutes. So I'll take you through this practice. Imagine you're waking up in the morning. Try to recall the color of the floor where you woke up. Now think about the first person in your life who matters a lot to you, someone very special. Look at their smiling face. And then send that person your silent gratitude for being in your life. Second person, and let this be one of your work colleagues who you really appreciate. Go back to the first memory of this person and the context around, in which you met them. And send them your silent gratitude. Third person, and let this be an animal in your life. Your dog, your cat, neighbor's dog, or loved one's dog or cat, or some other animal. Look into the eyes of this person, this being, and notice the color of their eyes. And then send them your silent gratitude. Go back in time and look at yourself when you were an 8-year-old or a happy moment in your childhood. Recall your hairstyle at that time. And then send a warm hello to your happy, innocent self. Think about someone who has passed away, who you loved. Give that person a virtual hug and hold that hug for 5 seconds. Then send silent gratitude to them. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So that is about 2 to 3 minutes of investment first thing in the morning. The total time invested with the program is going to be anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. That's the only amount of time. And almost always the first person I think about when I wake up is my wife, Richa, and she may be sleeping by my side, but I send her my silent gratitude. And so what that does is it primes me to meet her. It infuses me with positive emotions. And let me ask you, how long does it take for you to figure out the feeling, the mood of your grocery clerk when you're checking out? Like, does it take more than 5 seconds? Most likely not. It's like right away, right? So when you meet people important to you, they gauge your energy very quickly. And I also want to avoid emotional labor. So I want to authentically be feeling good and express that authentic feeling. So that's what I try to do every morning. So what we can do is take like a 30-second interaction where I would love for you to post who were you grateful for in the practice, either who is the animal in your life, or uh, the previous teacher or one of the colleagues. If you can post, that will be awesome. Who are you grateful for? And if people here, if somebody is here, that'll be awesome too, if you can. So Apple posted your spouse. Let's say, who else? Oh, well, now we have many. Okay, for my dad who passed away, my partner, my business coach, my dog Bailey, my son David. Somebody's grateful to you. My friend's dog, 2 children, and my mom, spouse. Okay. So I think one thing that is beautiful is if you can let people know you're grateful for them. It is not cheesy. They love it. They love to hear this. And one of the very simple ways you can enhance this practice is to put a post-it note on your bathroom mirror and write the word gratitude on it. So if you forget this practice tomorrow morning, you find yourself in the bathroom, when you see that note, go back to bed and start over. And if this practice becomes boring, there is 2 solutions. One is spice it up with some annoying people in your practice. That is one. And two is assume that by sending the people your silent gratitude, you're protecting them for the week. So that deepens the practice. So this is the first sort of idea. The response to the second question and the first practice, this is how I like to start my morning every day. And nothing prevents you from doing it at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Third question that is pertinent here. At the end of the day, my work momentum keeps running through my head. My family consistently gets the leftovers. How do I improve this? So there is a very simple practice that we have implemented. We call the 2-minute rule practice. And it emerged from me watching at the airlines, receiving area, baggage claim area, when people come and they hug their family and, I say, well, it is the same people, but what is happening is there's a time gap. So I thought, okay, can I create the equivalent of baggage claim area in my living room when I'm coming back from work or when my wife is coming back from work? So this is the 2-minute rule. So here is a thought experiment, and maybe I'll ask David. David, you're sitting with your wife, and you're high school buddy shows up, who is going to be more interesting for the next 2 minutes? High school buddy or your wife?
Is this a trick question, Dr. Sood?
I'll say for me, it will be my wife, but
Of course, I'm going to say my wife.
okay, we got the answer, and your nose
I
got
would
a
say,
little.
I would say if my wife is sitting there and a high school buddy comes up I haven't seen for 20 years, then he's obviously going to get the attention for the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. You just prevented your nose from growing a little longer. That's the at least that is the correct answer. That'll get you the certification. You know. So basically, between the two of you is love, and between you and your high school buddy is novelty. So you just confessed, and this is true for Homo sapiens at large, that novelty beats love in drawing attention. When we seek love where novelty is, that is when our connections break. So the key is to try and find novelty where love is. So this is a question I asked myself. So when will I find novelty? Say you were cast away for a month and you have had no connection. Will you find your loved one's novel after that gap? And most people say yes, right? Then your partner is going to be novel and interesting. You forget why you were angry at them or whatever it is. So basically, so this is what I started doing in the garage. I would tell myself, okay, I'm going to see some very special people I haven't seen for a month. And this is undoing the what is called Zeigarnik effect. Zeigarnik effect is basically you're working 9, 10 hour days, and then you're thinking about work for the next 3 hours. So that whole week becomes one big blob of work. And that is because the momentum in our brain, it continues. I'm sure you have experienced, you are just barely carrying out conversation at the dinner table because your mind is very active and it is thinking about all the things that happen at work. And sometimes it doesn't settle until you sleep at night. So the practice is what we call the 2-minute rule practice. So it starts off from the garage. You tell yourself, I haven't seen these people who I'm going to meet. I haven't seen them for a month. And this can apply with friends and colleagues and neighbors even. And then if you don't do this, this is the sad outcome in many families. So I would love for you to take out your smartphone if you have with you right now and go to the photo stream and pull out a picture of somebody who you're going to see today and zoom in and look at the color of their eyes. I was recently asking someone, when was the last time did you see your wife's eyes when you paused and looked at those at her eyes? He said that was like 18 years ago. Well, that's really sad. So my invitation to you is when you meet your family or an important person in your life, be it on FaceTime, look at the color of their eyes. Now, please look at them only for 2 seconds, not 2 minutes, otherwise you'll freak them out, and just make it natural so it doesn't look like, but try and have this intention that I will look at their eyes. So that what it does is mechanistically it brings you close to them and it pulls your attention externally from your mind wandering. So that is the second part. The first part is the intention in the garage. The third part here is very difficult. It engages the inhibitory control part of your executive function. And that is for the first 2 minutes when you meet your family, have no desire to improve them, have no desire to judge them, because otherwise they associate you with feeling judged, feeling bad about themselves. I was feeling pretty good until dad showed up on the scene. And then, I just am reminded of why I am imperfect. So it's a subtle energy and they then tend to withdraw from your presence. The energy should be, oh, dad is here, it's going to be fun. And so when I started this, my kids were younger, I would tie balloons to my eyeglasses or stickers to my cheeks or put firefighter's hat or stick something up my nose just to make them sort of feel that when dad is around, that something fun is happening. So that is the second part. And the third part of 2-minute, fourth part of 2-minute rule practice, is speak words. There's two very specific ideas. See, it is a bit prescriptive, the practice. The first idea is remind them they were in your thoughts. That is one of the best ways to compliment people. I was thinking about you when I was away, because then they know that you have a healthy space in your brain's real estate for them. Or use these words, they work, come with, they work like 99% of the time, which is, honey, you were really right when you, and fill anything after that. Remind them how they were right, particularly if you have teenagers. I love you doesn't cut it. I respect you. I value your opinion. That is what they love. Now, the first time you do this, they will grow suspicious. They will they will assume that you've got, what's wrong? Why are you being nice to me? But what we are trying to do is this practice is relationship centric. It has radical acceptance. It has mindfulness within it. It has a lot of neuroscience ideas sort of blended into this. And it has taken us 15 years to really come to this combination. It may look very simple and easy, but of about 1 million people we have connected with, I would say maybe 10 people intrinsically, instinctively do something like this, either morning gratitude or 2-minute rule. And when I ask, does it really work when you improve your loved ones at the end of the day, or your colleagues, or your patients? Patients like to be validated, not educated right away. First 2 minutes, no need to improve them. Just help them feel worthy. See, this is relationship 101. I don't like you for who you are. I like you for how I feel about myself in your presence. See, that's the key. So this is the 2-minute rule practice. And dogs are natural. Many of you who have pets, they are natural with this 2-minute rule practice. And so are kids when they are too, but we somehow lose it as we get older. Fourth question, and this is more logistical sort of answers, not as, there are some relationship-centric activities here too. Many days worries run through my mind 24/7. How do I keep a clearer head to be more effective? And clearly, what happens is worries occupy my working memory, so I am not at my best. I can't do creative thinking or handle complexity when my working memory slots are occupied by ongoing worry, or worse, they are atrophied, my working memory areas, because of chronic stress. So what I realized was our negativity bias. When you look at this room, perhaps the spider draws the most attention, not the glass of water. But how many people die of spider bites in a year? It's less than 5. Compared to that, how many more people are killed by donuts? You will agree that donuts are more lethal than spiders. So actually, when you go to a party and they have a box of donuts, you've got 20 donuts staring at you, you should run away in fear, because they just try to kill you by feeding donuts. So Atria, we will not have donuts at our parties anymore. I'm just, it's okay. We'll actually validate donuts in just a few minutes, and talk good about them too. So see, we can't be, it's equity and food inclusion. So anyway, so where was I going with that? So basically, we have some irrational fears and we do not have some rational fears. So that's where scheduled worry time came. That what I realized was I was worrying that I was not worrying. And I realized that if that is the state of my brain, I will never be calm. And so I said, why not just schedule my worries? 5 or 10 minutes I will assign to, I'll sit down, think methodically about what I have to do. To think about my mom's bone density, or my daughter's college grades, or some medical issue, some financial issue. And then when I'm done, if the same thing comes at 3 or 4 p.m., I will not let it usurp into my default mode and keep my brain active. And so it really decreases the total load of worries. A couple of studies have shown that otherwise your day is one big blob of worry. That sort of becomes a haze behind it. And I'm not able to authentically be present. Or when I'm smiling or laughing or enjoying my coffee, that worry immediately comes into my head. Oh, I don't deserve to be happy because there's this thing concerning happening in my life, right? So that's how you can be kind to yourself. Laughter is an act of self-kindness. Humor is an act of self-kindness. Remember that. You need it to nurture your brain. The second approach when there's a lot of worries is to zoom out. Will it matter in 5 years? Am I going to be thinking about it on April 20th, 2028? And if not, it's not worth my time. Will it matter in the bigger context? So once I was giving a talk to NPR, and I hadn't slept well the previous night, and so there was a countdown, and they were like, in 20 seconds, we'll be live for 1 hour, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to really break into Hindi, or will not make sense, or may say some curse words. I don't know. I'll just discredit myself because I can't think straight. Then I zoomed out and I said, okay, I'm in Rochester, Minnesota, 9th floor Plummer building. All right, zoom out. Minnesota, US, planet Earth, solar system, Milky Way. Okay, in the context of Milky Way, whatever I say is inconsequential. So when you zoom out, the present challenge that you and I are facing seems small, and not to mention they are not important, but you put a bigger context around it, so they become easier to accept and work with. So that is the idea of zooming out. The other approach you can do is zoom in. That is, all right, I've got this thing to tackle at 5 p.m., but right now I'm just going to focus on what's happening for the next hour. I'll just pick the load of the next hour and engage in an activity that actually gets you to zoom in, whether it is reading or music or playing with your pet, whatever it is. So only humans have this ability, zoom out and zoom in. And you flexibly zoom out, zoom in. So for example, when I'm getting dental work, I don't want to zoom in. If I am getting colonoscopy next Monday, I don't want to wreck my weekend thinking about that. Then I zoom in and focus on what's happening in the present moment. So mindfulness is not as much about being in the moment. Mindfulness is about being flexible where you place your attention. If the present moment is struggling, you can zoom out. If the distant moment is struggling, then you can zoom in. So I actually personally feel mindfulness is about the freedom from the need to be in the present moment, because you not only can place your attention where it makes sense, you can also choose your perspective of compassion, of acceptance, and of forgiveness. Final question, and I have 9 minutes. Question 5, often I feel disconnected from my own world. How do I build better relationships in personal and professional life? So, okay, over the next 40 minutes, we will talk about this. This is my brain looking at a donut. See, we are trying to now revive donut. So when my brain looks at donut, there is 3 inputs my brain gives me. The first is, I love this donut. It'll come handy fighting the next Neanderthal. That can happen any moment. So I want calorie-dense food to be part of my body. The second input is, oh my gosh, I dread donut, cholesterol, LDL, needles, and carbs, and sugar, and salt. And the rational part is an occasional donut is fine. And often the rational part wins because it aligns with my reward area. So, but the idea here is I have a conflicted brain. If you're conflicted about whether to cross on the orange light, you're getting late. If you do not cross, your daughter gets tardy ticket. If you cross, then you're giving a bad example for her. What do? I have to make that split-second decision that I have to do almost every other day when I'm dropping my daughter in the morning. What I realized was that I need some timeless principles that I can trust. And I want to evaluate my life, my thinking, and my connections in that light. So those 5 principles are gratitude, compassion, acceptance, meaning, and forgiveness. And we have days divided, actually. Mondays are the days of gratitude, Tuesday of compassion, Wednesday of acceptance, Thursday of meaning, and Friday of forgiveness. Now, gratitude, the key is lowering the threshold. So this little girl at my daughter's elementary school, when I asked her what makes you happy, she said, I'm happy because the swing sets work, the grass is green, and the sky is blue. She had come from a place where she had not seen blue sky for a long time. So she inspired me to look at the sky. And being grateful for something simple. And this lesson I had learned when I was an intern, medical intern. I saw this patient with advanced kidney failure who was having second kidney rejected. So he called me at like 2 a.m. and he said, young man, let me tell you something that'll help you. And it certainly did. He said, I have only two dreams in my life. I've been a very successful person and all that. But right now, one, I want my kidneys to wake up and make a bladder full of urine. And two, I want to walk to the bathroom and I want to hear me flushing that. If those two things happen, I'll be very happy. And I realize how our expectations get lowered. So I invite you to feel grateful when you flush this evening or tonight, because it's my kidneys working. So that is gratitude, being grateful for simple. Compassion. Now, certainly these things happen in life. So API are the three letters that really help us. Assume positive intent. Now, you can blame the other person and put intentionality on them, saying they are irrational, or you can say maybe they didn't sleep well last night. Maybe their back is acting up. Maybe they have a sick child. Maybe they are worried he might be fired. Maybe he's constipated. I don't know. So basically, there are one of the well-being workplace intervention I sometimes recommend is to increase fiber intake in breakfast, which will improve the quality of meetings. So the idea is to validate the other person from within their perspective. And that is an act of compassion. The second act of compassion is to celebrate other people's good moments. So very interesting study by Shelley Gable from UCLA. Will you be there for me when things go right? Not when things go wrong. Because people who are able to celebrate the good times with you, you feel closer to them, even more than people who come for help when you need their help. Because your reward network starts getting activated in their presence, and you feel close to them. You feel less vulnerable in their presence. Acceptance. Now, this is how my wife likes my dishwasher, and this is how I load my dishwasher. So there is a value incongruence there, and we have not been able to resolve it for 30 years. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary this February, and and somehow now we have resigned ourselves to accepting each other's imperfections. And you can imagine these values about dishwasher, they project onto other aspects of life. This is just symptomatic of our predisposition. So we just have begun to appreciate. She has appreciated me being easygoing, and I have appreciated her being organized. And that is part of acceptance, being grateful for what is right about the person, finding meaning in what seems wrong, and finding rational context in what seems wrong. At work, it is very important for us to be able to celebrate each other's happy moments, sacred moments. And that is core to not only accept, but also honor and welcome each other's beautiful moments. And that is core of acceptance. Meaning is the fourth principles: gratitude, compassion, acceptance, meaning. And we all have our own sense of higher purpose. My higher purpose is how can I help build a better, a kinder, more hopeful world for our planet's children. And I try to look at everything I do with that lens. It helps me from going in the wrong direction. It keeps me focused on what my personal North Star is. So I think having that North Star and aligning our short term with that long term. Many times people can articulate a wonderful meaning, but their short term is disconnected from that long term. So the more we can align that short and long term, the better. And finally is forgiveness. I stepped on my dog's tail. He turned around and bit my hand. How can I blame my dog? So many times we can get hurt because not because someone is trying to hurt us, but they just couldn't help it. It's not so. So the more you can remove intentionality, the better it is with forgiveness. Though forgiveness is complex and difficult, and sometimes needs professional or at least close loved ones' assistance for you to be able to go there. I actually use allergy model when someone bothers me. I don't say they're bad. I say I'm allergic to them because I could be allergic to peanuts, and both peanuts are good. I'm good, but I'm just allergic to peanuts. So I find that easier way to accept people compared to saying they're nasty or bad. So those are the 5 principles. The way we apply these principles are: you look at an adversity. You have spill here. So how do I find gratitude in this spill? And I'm grateful that the spill did not touch the electronics. But is that what you will first think when the spill happens? I think you will say, oh, damn, or something like that. And then you will gradually recover. So if your first reaction, oh, there's a spill, aha, it didn't touch the electronics. Now you're becoming resilient. I know I'm pushing it. You don't have to go that far right away. But, recovering with these principles really helps. One of my friends and colleagues, has agreed with sharing her story. She was sitting with her nephew who had a self-inflicted gunshot wound to his head. He passed away. She was in the ER with him, waiting for them to harvest his organs. And she said that was Tuesday, her day of compassion. And instead of getting upset and angry and disappointed, she shifted to compassion for him, for herself, for his family, for the caregivers. And she found she could at least organize her thoughts and remain a source of positivity, or at least rationality to people around her. So these principles can come very handy when life is getting scattered, to keep your mind organized. You're stuck in traffic jam, you're right here, this car. You can have acceptance that stuff like this happens. I often have compassion for someone who is at the front end of the traffic jam and is having a bad day, or someone who has a 6-year-old, drank a lot of fruit juice, they're coming from a birthday party, and she's doing a pee-pee dance, and now she's stuck in the traffic jam. I've been there, so I usually have a smile thinking about her, hoping they have a big container that can help her out in this situation, in this quagmire. So these are some of the ideas that we have discussed. I'll just recap here. What is resilience and why resilience? It's doing well when you shouldn't be doing well. It is your ability to withstand adversity, bounce back, and grow despite life's downturns. Why it is important is because the way the world has built up in the current state of industrial revolution, our cognition, our emotions, our morality, all are challenged. And any amount of fixing the system is not going to reverse it anytime soon. Plus, we have many more stressors beyond work. So, and I do not know anyone who was able to be a change agent who was burnt out historically. I think if you want to be a change agent, you start off from personal resilience. Similar to when you're going to gym, you're not physically weak, you're actually strong and getting stronger. That's the whole point. A few ideas of cultivating resilience. And I'm just discussing those rum moments, sprinkling these moments, not adding more milk to your glass of milk, but putting chocolate powder in it. So it doesn't increase the volume, but changes the flavor of the day. And we have done over 35 clinical trials. I didn't bore you with all the p-values because that would be a 30-slide separate presentation, and you will probably fled that very quickly. So good morning. We talked about morning gratitude practice. You can do it with 5, 3, 2, or 1 person or 20 people, whatever works for you. But I think that's a very positive way to start. Whenever I'm on trip, if I'm in New York, I wake up in the hotel room in the psychological presence of these good people, so I feel less lonely. Family gets leftovers, 2-minute rule we've been doing 15 years. I've had many people who have come back and told me that there's so much more love in the family. My daughter is not saying, "Mom, are you listening?" because she knows I'm listening. And I think it is easier to say goodbye when you have loved and were able to show it. So as my daughter left for college, my elder daughter, we celebrated that at least for the last 15 years, we were there, we were present. So it's easier to say goodbye until we meet again very soon. Worries 24/7, schedule worry time. Not 100% effective, but helps a little bit. And zoom in and zoom out. And the more you practice this, the more you develop a flexible zoom in your brain. And flexibility is a sign of resilience as such. And finally, improving connections, connecting with each other using these 5 principles. Some of the best friendships you can make is through values. Value-based connections really last a long time. Connection based on someone being successful or wealthy usually doesn't work. Don't forget the dark chocolate, which is basically a reminder to eat healthy, and because that is a big part of it. And so I'm really, really grateful to you for giving the gift of your attention and time, and very grateful to Dr. Dodick for being a wonderful friend and giving me this platform. Thank you.
Well, we're all very grateful. We all have gratitude for your time today, your expertise, for what you do and the difference that you're making in so many people's lives.